Starmer called that a win. It's not a win. Trump is a bully, he's economic illiterate, he's an economic thug.
Why we are wasting time and credibility to our own shame dealing with a man who is trying to bully us when we got friends over the channel is ludicrous, and that's costing jobs.
Britain is being frightened to death by the media and certain politicians about the perceived threat to Britain, which they are making out is an abundance of small boats coming across the channel, and thousands of migrants are penetrating Britain, apparently. I know people who live in Dover who also have a boat in Dover, and they're telling me that there are not many boats coming into Dover. So it's hard to know whether this is true and where these people are supposedly coming into. But I can tell you that there is a real threat, and that threat is from food coming into our borders, because our borders are inadequate. In fact, they're woefully inadequate, and hardly any checks are happening on foodstuffs coming into this country, which is a far greater risk for all of us, because we can all die from food poisoning and we can certainly get sick from that, but it's also a biosecurity risk and a risk for pandemic. And this is something which is alarming. And since Keir Starmer agreed the Brexit reset, he has also announced that there will be a relaxing of food checks for imports coming into Britain again. Now, there's been some celebration. The headlines are, great, food is going to be cheaper again. But everybody seems to have forgotten about Jacob Rees-Mogg. And in my view, Keir Starmer is doing what Jacob Rees-Mogg wanted, which is not putting in border checks for imports.
Of not going ahead with them and trying to ensure that the border flows as smoothly as possible, which benefits everybody. Free trade is hugely advantageous to consumers.
But obviously, we still have non-tariff barriers, checks for exports going from Britain to our biggest market in Europe. And this is absolutely unfair. So why would Keir Starmer agree with Rees-Mogg? Because the other thing Rees-Mogg is and always has been very passionate about achieving is an American trade deal and allowing hormone-fed beef and chlorinated chicken to swarm in here and decimate our high food standards and our food security and our British farms.
Trade deals with Singapore and South Korea. The United Kingdom, on her own, would have had a free trade deal with the United States years ago. We're held back by a semi-protectionist European Union in negotiating free trade across the world. We've held up our free trade deals with other free trading, outward-looking nations. I think our position regarding free trade would be better with a subsidiary membership or no membership.
Well, why do you think that the United States is so keen to do a deal with this protectionist racket that is Europe?
Well, it's a big market that people are doing deals with the European Union, but very, very slowly. The United Kingdom would have a free trade deal with the United States by now if we hadn't handed over negotiations on such things to Europe. We would be better off in trade.
Calling for hormone-injected beef from Australia because it's cheaper.
If people want to eat it, they should be free to.
I am particularly worried that with Donald Trump now raising the stakes on his tariffs for steel, holding the country to ransom and forcing us to sign his deal on his terms in behind closed doors, which we won't see and Parliament may not see, and we end up agreeing a side deal which lowers our food standards and scuppers any chance of a Brexit reset and starts us on a course for the most disastrous reality of what the Tories hope to achieve, but Labour may well complete: an American trade deal which tears down our high standards and our food security. This was discussed on Politics Live today, and two people were in strong agreement with each other, Tim Farron and Andy Preston.
Do you think they've played it well, this?
No, I think Trump is erratic, unpredictable and really dangerous. I think what he did a month ago was he said he jacked tariffs right up. Keir Starmer then negotiated and gave some ground, and Trump reduced the new tariffs a little bit and Starmer called that a win. It's not a win. Trump is a bully. He's economic illiterate. He's an economic thug. He's causing chaos in the US. Bond yields have gone through the roof. The dollar is very weak. Inflation is starting to pick up again. And we're being far too kind to him. I think Tim had said to me earlier, we were chatting beforehand, we should really be focused on working with Canada, Australia, like-minded, trustworthy nations to do great deals that we can rely on.
Tim, I was going to say you probably agree with most of that.
Yeah, you don't dance to the tune of a bully. This is not a win. Do we really want is the apex of our patriotism to be that weed carrying the mack of the bully as he kicks other people? I'm sorry, that is shameful. So I see no benefit to us in this. We're clearly being bullied into.
But we are the
deal.
only ones who are going to be paying at the moment 25%.
For a period of
so we're
time,
paying half as much as anyone else.
If we signed the deal on his terms, sorry, that is not how two equal partners negotiate with each other on a public level. America, I hope, is a long-term ally and a friend, but for the time being, a totally unpredictable and unreliable one. So yes, absolutely, as we've said, we should be doing deals with countries we can rely upon. And just a few miles over the channel, there's one there where we could actually add £25 billion the exchequers take every year if we had what the Liberal Democrats are calling for, and that's a custom union-like arrangement with the European Union. Why we are wasting time and credibility to our own shame dealing with a man who is trying to bully us when we got friends over the channel is ludicrous, and that's costing jobs.
Luke, how do the public here view all of this, do you think, particularly our relations with Donald Trump?
Well, I think it's fair to say the British public aren't great fans of Donald Trump. In our latest polling, I think his net approval rating was -48, so it's pretty low. And what's interesting is we also ask the question, which countries do you see as an ally or as an enemy? And what we found is that now under half of the UK public say that the US is an ally of the UK. And that's pretty extraordinary. When you think about the special relationship, that sort of transatlantic bridge that we've got, it is definitely the case that Donald Trump, and particularly his more kind of erratic nature, has worried people. And when we speak to people in focus groups, they'll say, I don't know what that guy, sometimes they use less polite language, that guy in the White House is going to do next. So there's very definitely worry there. And when the deal was initially announced, the public tended to think the US got the better side of that deal. It'll be interesting to see if us having this lower rate makes people think, maybe it was worth it.
Doesn't it also mean that we can't really rely on, let's say we do sign the deal, and we've had all these promises about, the food standards, animal welfare standards being protected. Are we going to trust it? We end up signing this under this sort of pressure, and we dance the tune of the bully. Who on earth believes that he's going to stick to the terms of this and protect our farmers? Of course he's not.
Emma?
I don't think we're dancing to the tune of a bully when we're in negotiations with one of our biggest trading partners and we've actually got an exemption for steel. How are we being bullied and dancing to someone's tune there?
If we sign the agreement on his terms in his timescale.
But our discussion is ongoing, though. You're talking about in the future. The discussions are still ongoing at this moment in time.
I think this isn't an exemption. This is a bribe to accept a broad-based, loose deal that suits the US and not really us. This is a bribe.
What are you worried that we're going to give way on?
I think that we're going to give way on a million things, but I don't think any of us have sat down and thought it through. He is pushing things through as fast as he can. He wants as little attention to detail as possible so he can make his announcements, but he's causing economic havoc in the USA. We shouldn't get too close to him.
Tim?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, we saw, without the pressure that the UK is under with America, the mistakes, obvious mistakes the Conservative government made over the deals with Australia and New Zealand in the last Parliament, where they threw British farmers under a bus, signing up to equivalent agreements when you've got much lower quality animal welfare and environmental standards in those countries. Times that by 10 with the United States, the damage to our farmers, to our ability to feed ourselves as a country, to food security is significant, and you need time to consider these things to make sure you go through the details.
And that's why it's ongoing. That's why discussions are ongoing, though, Tim, because we are considering it. We're not being bullied. We're not dancing anyone's tune.
But what I'm saying is that his announcement overnight is no win for the United Kingdom. It is Donald Trump saying, this is your timescale, this is what you've got to sign up to, and it's up to the UK government to show some backbone.
I think people in the Scunthorpe plant would
no.
see this as a win, and I think those thousands of people whose jobs were saved would see that as a win as well.
I think he's saying the public are pragmatic on this. They don't like Donald Trump, but ultimately what they care about is what is the best deal we can get for the UK economy. So if you look at Starmer, he's generally got plaudits for how he's handled Donald Trump amongst the public. So I think there's a bit of a balance, though, and as you say, saving jobs, I think, is more important to most people than having a fight with the president.
But of course, if in the long run, what happens, you end up basically giving in to a bully. They know what they can get away with next time round.
And you can support your steel industry. You can support your steel industry without doing deals with the devil. You can subsidise your own industry, nationalise it, and do all kinds of things.
Which
you
is
don't
what we've
have
done.
to enter into stupid deals.
And we know that the benefit to GDP and to British jobs of the deal that's on the table with America is a fraction of the one we could have with the European Union. So why not trade and have deals with people who we A, can trust, and B, are offering us an infinitely better deal?
We're doing trade deals with lots of different countries, and I would say, you know, what we're supposed to do, just ignore the fact that Donald Trump is president. You have to work with people.
If you've got to be pragmatic about this, they are still a big economy, and we still do have to deal with him. You don't need to call it the special relationship.
No. I mean, we deal with countries far less pleasant even than the one led by Donald Trump. But the point is, what is Trump's announcement about today? It's giving the United Kingdom a narrow timescale on his terms to agree to his terms. And the answer to that from the United Kingdom must be any deal that we enter into, A, must be on equal terms. At the moment, it absolutely isn't. And B, you need to stick to it. And the problem is we can potentially achieve A, maybe. B, we now know the character of this man as if he's going to stick to the terms of any deal. So we need to be focusing our attentions, our efforts, our energy, our political capital on deals with the European Union and other countries who are reliable partners. He is not.
OK, let's move on.
We seem to be in a very precarious position, and we appear to be lurching from one crisis to the next, with reports this evening that the Labour Party may well be on its way to split. We will wait and see what happens, but for sure, if Keir Starmer looks as though he's going to try and push through an American trade deal and scupper our chances of a Brexit reset, there's going to be a big backlash. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Comment below, let me know what you think.